So whether you have your own place to live or whether you're an investor, you have a home loan. In this episode, we'll be going through whether to use an offset account, which is very unique to Australia, or a redraw account, the pros and cons of each. And at the end of the episode, I'll tell you my personal recommendation and when I've chosen a particular product versus another. Guys, this may not be the sexiest video, but don't forget that the quality of your life in 5 years' time will be dictated by the quality of content you consume now. So this is the weeds, the nitty-gritty of how to save and make thousands of dollars. Don't miss it. My name's PK and I help people build passive income through the Property Investment Accelerator using data without needing a $15,000 buyer's agent every single time. This channel we talk about property, financial happiness, and the economy. Smash subscribe, give it a thumbs up, all that good stuff. Okay, real quick, what is an offset? What's a redraw? So an offset account, let's say you got $500,000 loan, you've got a separate account, it's called an offset account, and let's say you got $100,000 in there. That means you're paying interest only on 500 minus 100,000. Interest only of $400,000, okay, only on $400,000. So an offset account is a way by which we can save our interest bill. It's very unique to Australia. A redraw, similar concept, it does reduce your interest, but it's not a separate account. You've got $500,000 loan. Let's say you've got $100,000 in cash. So you're like, all right, let me put it in that same account. So now my loan is $400,000. So you've effectively paid off your loan. Okay. And you can take it out, put more in, it reduces your interest. Your interest is only based on that 400,000, 500 minus 100. But there's huge differences between an offset account, which is a separate account, versus a redraw facility, which is not a separate account, but just chucking money into the loan to reduce it. Let's go through the pros and cons. The first pro of an offset account is it gives you liquidity or control. The thing with the redraw account is, like, let's say a $500K loan, you put in $100,000. It's very difficult sometimes to get that $100,000 out really quickly. You actually have to apply for it. You have to fill out some forms in some cases, all right? Whereas with an offset account, internet banking, like I'm at CBA for some loans, internet banking, I get it out within a second. Redraw, you may not be able to do that. You may have to call them, you have to prove something, sign a few forms, and even then, the bank may or may not always let you get it out within a particular set of time. So if you want control, some like liquidity over your money, offset, that's the first pro. The second pro, I kind of alluded to it, is that in offset, it's your money. There is no approvals. There's no, something that needs to get sanctioned for you to get that 100,000 back. By the way, I'm just saying 100,000 as a random number. It could be $50 or it could be $500,000, anything. With an offset, it's your money, no questions asked by the bank. Whereas with a redraw facility, the bank can say no. Technically, they can say no, all right, within a particular period of time to get your money. So that's another pro of offset accounts. There's no approvals required. The third positive of an offset account is that there's no minimum amount you have to redraw or else cop a fee, all right? So the thing with a redraw account is that sometimes you can't withdraw money back out. So let's say you've got 100,000 in, they may not let you just take $100 out or $1,000 out. Sometimes there's thresholds. You can only take out money in chunks. Or every time, or sometimes when you do want to take money out of a redraw account, there might be fees involved. No one likes fees, let's be honest, especially not with banks. They make enough money as it is. So that's another positive in offset account. There's no fees, no charges, you're in control. The fourth and last, or one of the last positives of the offset account is that there's no tax implications, okay? So let's say the 500K loan and you've got 100K in an offset account and you decide to do something with the 100K, I don't know, buy a bike, go on a holiday, whatever the case may be, right? You don't need to worry about your taxes. That entire 500K is still tax deductible. Whereas with a redraw loan, like let's say there's 500K loan and you've got $100,000 into that redraw facility, okay? Not a separate account, just $100,000 against offsetting. Don't get confused with the words, but offsetting that loan. to get that $100,000 out, fine, you go through the ring roll. But if you don't use it for investment purposes, like let's say you do go on an around the world holiday, buy a diamond ring, or even if you just take $100 out, right, and do the grocery shopping, or what, I'm just like an extreme example, right? All of a sudden, that component, that quantum, that amount that you took out is reduced from your tax deductible component of the whole loan. So let's say a $500K loan, you've taken out $100,000 to go on some massively expensive around the world holiday. Now only $400,000 of that loan is tax deductible. You've still got $500K loan, right? But only $400K is actually tax deductible, contributing towards negative gearing, reducing your tax, all that. So with an offset, you don't have to worry about tax implications. Do what you want. With a redraw, there is tax implications. Okay, so the negatives of offset accounts, there are some downsides as well. All right, is that sometimes banks that give redraw facilities rather than offset accounts give better interest rates. So right now, interest rates are like relatively higher than what they were, a couple of years ago for sure. And, an offset account, that kind of loan structure may demand a higher interest rate, 0.5%, 0.2%, 0.3%, 0.1%, whatever it is, right? So not always, but in most cases, an offset account comes with a little bit higher loan, a little bit higher loan interest rate. So, if your offset money that you're putting into an offset is that much more to offset the additional interest rate that you'll be paying, then it makes sense to go with an offset account. All else equal. If it doesn't, then maybe a redraw is something you want to consider. Another negative of an offset account is that a redraw facility is actually not considered an asset. Okay, so for maybe you're of pension age or whatever, and if you are looking to apply for your pension and something is asset tested, then all of a sudden you're in a world of pain if you got money in offset account, because that is going to be considered an asset. Okay, whereas if you've got $100,000 in your redraw facility, even though it's your $100,000, that's not considered an asset. Okay, so for those of you who might be in a particular situation, I don't know, like Centrelink or pension or whatever the case may be, and the government is considering or asset testing you, right, for you to receive some sort of other annuity or income, then maybe a redraw facility is a better way to go. All right, the third negative of an offset account is sometimes offset accounts come with an annual charge. I know, like when I got my first offset account, I think it came with like $350 annual fee or something like that. For me, it was worth it because the amount of money I had in the offset was like, the interest that I would save was going to eclipse that $350, etc. But like, just be careful. Redraws are often free. Offsets sometimes come with a bit of a bank fee on an annual basis. So if it makes financial sense, cost benefit, pros and cons in terms of your particular financial situation and position, then go with an offset, or maybe it's not worthwhile. The last negative of an offset account is that sometimes you can't actually offset 100% of your loan, but with a redraw account you can. So like, let's say you've got a $500,000 loan and you've got $500,000 cash. Some banks, some products, not all of them, not even many of them, they won't let you offset the whole loan amount. So you still be paying a bit of interest, even though you got all this cash that should be completely, offsetting your entire loan amount. Whereas with a redraw account, you can offset 100% or reduce your interest bill down to zero. So that's another, around the edges. So those are 4 pros and 4 cons. And I did say at the end of the episode, I'll give you my recommendation. My recommendation, guys, is almost 100% of the time, go with an offset account. You have control over your money. You have, that liquidity that we want. You don't have to ask for permission to use your money. There's no tax implications. The only reason I would go with a redraw account is that, you don't actually have that much to offset in the first place, and you want to reduce the fees. Maybe there's that, you're a pensioner, you don't want to have that money asset tested. Or perhaps like the last thing I said is that you're getting so much of a better rate on a redraw facility versus an offset account. Your interest rate is so much lower that you're like, hey, this allows me to get that next property because I can afford it, whereas an offset account, I wouldn't have been able to afford it. So those are some pros and cons. Let me know in the comments, what are you doing? I mean, there are thousands of people that are going to listen to this, that are going to watch this. Are you going with an offset account in your portfolio? Do you have offset accounts or do you have redraw accounts? Let me know in the comments, and that way we can kind of, democratize prioritize this education. My name's PK, to really level up and go even deeper into this, because you know, the content you consume now will dictate the quality of your life in 5 years time. Level up. I'll leave links below to my podcast, Australian Property Mastery with PK, on Spotify, Google, Apple, in the comments below, as well as my Facebook group, same name, almost 30,000 amazing community members. Hit the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and thank you for being an amazing community. I'm very grateful to each and every one of you. Catch you later.